"Don't you dare cook with those dirty hands," my son Jack said when he saw the grime on my hands from my factory job that wouldn't wash off. He called them dirty. So, I prepared meals wearing big plastic gloves, but they were so slippery that I accidentally cut my finger. I've always worked hard for my children, but Jack, my eldest son, was ashamed of me. My name is Emily. After getting divorced in my 30s, I used my hairdressing qualifications to juggle part-time jobs at a barber shop and a factory to raise my two sons. I'm 55 now. The divorce was due to my ex-husband's terrible drinking habits. Despite his high education and income, he became violent when drunk, and I was constantly afraid he might harm our young sons. So, I made the bold decision to leave with my two boys. "Dirty hands, huh? Could you at least take care of them?" Jack, who is a bit of a germaphobe and loves cleanliness, said. He is good at studies and graduated from a well-known university. "I wash them so much they get chapped, and I don't have time to take care of them," I replied. Jack glanced at me with contempt and left the room. "Mom works hard with her hands at the barber shop and the factory. You deal with machine oil," said my younger son Sam. Sam doesn't like studying but learned programming on his own. Due to his weak health, he works as a home-based engineer. We've managed to live together in a small apartment, but now Jack has decided to become independent. He wanted to live alone right after graduating, but I could barely afford his tuition, let alone support his independence. "Are you kidding me? Working from dawn till dusk, and this is all you've got? Are you secretly using the money you earn for yourself?" Jack often said harshly to me, wearing fraying sweatshirts, worn-out jeans, and sneakers with worn-out heels. Maybe we just didn't get along. My alcoholic ex-husband was fond of Jack when he wasn't drinking, so maybe Jack resented me for pulling them apart. I've worried a lot about whether not being able to be there for him during his sensitive years as a single parent and always working affected him. In the end, Jack commuted from home for a while after graduating. When he found out I had managed to save some money, he said, "Having parents who don't know how to make money efficiently is a struggle." He then quickly took the money I offered and left without even telling me where he was moving to. Ever since Jack found out that his father, whom I had separated from, had a high education and high income, he criticized me for leaving him. Jack said that even if his father was a bit of a drunk, if I had stayed with him, I might have had better treatment because of his money. Despite being tough, seeing my firstborn become independent was both joyful and lonely. I shed some tears and went to sleep that day. Even after that, whenever he was short on money, Jack would come home and take the money I had earned and saved. Although my younger son Sam tried to stop him, Jack's physical strength always won, making it hard for me to save money for my old age. One day, I got a message from Jack saying he was getting married. He arranged a meeting with the family, telling me to make sure I didn't embarrass him and to dress properly. Despite his harsh words, I was happy for him, hoping that having someone important in his life might change him. I thought he would learn about love from his future wife, something I could teach him. I anxiously waited for the meeting's schedule, but also had to go to work. During my shift at the factory, my phone rang, and I answered, hoping it was Jack. It was. When I asked about the date for the meeting, he said, "No, her parents are business people and have a keen eye for people. They're different from our family, so you don't have to come." Then, without waiting for my reply, he hung up. I was more disappointed than I expected. Ever since Jack left home, I always worried about him. Knowing he would have someone by his side when he got married was comforting. I wanted to meet the woman who loves my son and ask her to take care of him. But Jack's words hurt. My younger son Sam heard this and said, "What the heck? I just got a new suit for nothing." Man, Jack is so selfish. A few days later, as I was about to head home after work, my phone started ringing. It was Jack. He said, "Her parents insist on meeting you? Come over now. Don't keep them waiting." Suddenly, I was in a rush. Should I risk being disrespectful by showing up in my dirty work clothes, or would it be worse to keep them waiting while I changed? I knew I'd be quite late if I went home to freshen up, so I reluctantly decided to go as I was. On the way, I bought some drugstore makeup, did a quick touch-up, dusted off my clothes, and headed for the restaurant. It turned out to be a high-end restaurant, and I felt intimidated. But there was nothing I could do at this point. I mustered up my courage, approached the table, and stammered, "I'm sorry for keeping you waiting. I'm Jack's mother, Emily. Thank you for this opportunity." When the in-laws and Jack's fiancé stood up to greet me, they began to guide me to my seat, but Jack interrupted. My mom has all sorts of allergies, so she can't eat at unfamiliar places. Today is really just for greetings. I don't have any allergies. Playing along and bowing apologetically, I let Jack chase me out of the restaurant. He must have thought my attire was disgraceful. I wanted to talk more with his fiancée, but I had no choice but to return home disappointed. Sure enough, Jack called me the next day. Why did you show up looking like that? That was embarrassing. Don't you know what a dress code is? He scolded me harshly. Sam, who was listening to the conversation, snatched my phone and defended me, saying, Mom was ready with a nice dress, and you're the one who told her she didn't need to come. Then you suddenly asked her to hurry over after work. What else was she supposed to do? I took back the phone and said, that wonderful restaurant indeed. I was out of place. I wonder if their parents were upset. They asked about where you work, what allergies you have, all kinds of things. Thanks to you, I was highly suspected. Jack continued, I'm after inheriting the business her parents run. I don't know what the business is about, but it's good to be in a position where I can employ others. I don't plan to be employed by others at my current company forever, so don't get in my way. There were a lot of things I wanted to say to Jack as a parent, but I knew he wouldn't listen to me. It seemed like he thought a mother like me was an obstacle. In the end, he spat out his final words. Low-income factory workers don't need to come to the wedding. I was shocked to hear this but said, if that's what Jack wants, that's fine with me. Seeing one's child find happiness is the greatest joy for a parent. I wanted to celebrate this new beginning together, but if my son does not wish for it, it's probably best that I don't attend. When I ended the call with Jack, it felt like I was also severing the bond between parent and child, which was deeply saddening. I remembered the face of the young lady who would be his wife, to whom I could barely say a proper greeting. Her parents seemed refined and had a gentle atmosphere about them. Thinking that they would become Jack's family from now on filled me with an indescribable loneliness. But I forced myself to accept it and went to sleep. After that, I continued to work at the barber shop and the factory, trying to switch off my feelings. I still had Sam. When Sam gets married, I want to be able to contribute whatever money I can, so I need to keep working hard. One day, about 2 weeks before the wedding, Jack contacted me again. I had thought our relationship was nearly severed since he said I didn't need to come to the wedding. Yet at this stage, he was still pushing more unreasonable demands on me. Weddings cost money, you know that, right? I know, but I don't have any more money to give you. Besides, if it's money for a wedding, shouldn't you have saved some yourself since you're working? I replied. He seemed annoyed, probably because I hit a nerve. Are you saying you can't even afford to pay for your child's wedding? There must be some way. Borrow it from somewhere. He wasn't listening. I gave in and said, fine, I'll arrange for it. Come by the house again to collect it. After that, Jack finally seemed satisfied and hung up. A few days later, Jack came to collect the borrowed money. He took it with a smug smile, said nothing, and left. I felt a huge responsibility for having taken on so much debt, even if it was for my child. Jack's wedding wasn't the only thing on my mind. I thought if something happened to me, this debt might be passed on to Sam. I knew I needed to work hard to repay it as soon as possible. Then one day, a man who said he was a customer came to the factory where I worked. I was called by a coworker to the office, and there, a surprising person was waiting for me. Days passed, and the day of Jack's wedding arrived. I had been told not to come, so I had no intention of going, but I worked as usual, praying for my son's happiness in my heart. Then I was called from the office. Jack was on the phone, seemingly in the middle of the wedding. I picked up the phone and asked what was going on, and in a panicked tone, he said, Mom, come to the wedding now. I was surprised and asked what on earth happened. He just said to hurry up and bring Sam too. So I quickly got ready and headed to the wedding venue. When I arrived, a staff member was waiting and quickly escorted me to the hall. When I opened the door, I was suddenly in the spotlight and couldn't make out my surroundings. Then the father of Jack's bride announced, This is Jack's mother. Please welcome her with applause. I became the center of attention, feeling both embarrassed and happy. While bowing to the people around me, I took my seat as guided, looking halfway up the stage. I could see Jack, my older son, with his arms crossed, looking away, dressed in a new suit. It seemed like he was embarrassed or possibly angry about me being introduced in front of so many people. Then there was my younger son, Sam, beside him, saying, Don't mind Jack, let's have fun. We've been invited by the bride's father himself. That's right, the man who had come to visit the factory before the wedding was the father of Jack's bride. When the bride's father had asked Jack why his mother wouldn't be attending the wedding, Jack had been vague in his reply. So the bride's father had taken the trouble to visit the factory himself. Even Jack couldn't defy the bride's father. Meanwhile, Sam was starting to dig into the feast before him, exclaiming how delicious it all looked. Thanks to Sam's cheerful and kind demeanor, I could truly appreciate the joy of witnessing my son's special moment in such a grand setting. After that, the wedding reception progressed in a friendly manner, reaching its climax and ending without a hitch. When we finally left the venue, I felt relieved as I managed to convey my blessings to both Jack and his bride. Taking a breather, I went to express my gratitude to the bride's parents. As I peered into the family waiting room, that's when it happened. Don't get too comfortable. You're only here because your father-in-law felt sorry for you, I heard someone say. Turning around, I saw Jack, who continued, "This isn't a place for a factory worker who's down on her luck." Suddenly, behind Jack, the bride's father, who had been absent until now, said, "Jack, are you still talking to your mother like that?" Caught off guard, Jack turned around, looking surprised before freezing in place. "Do you understand how much financial hardship you cause your mother? It's not just tuition fees but moving costs when you left home, wedding expenses, and even the money you've taken from your mother to supplement your irresponsible lifestyle." The bride's father addressed Jack. Jack couldn't respond to this. He just looked down, biting his lip. Then Sam, who was beside me, chimed in, "You had Mom take out a payday loan for the wedding expenses, didn't you? $10 million wouldn't have been enough, right, Jack?" "No offense, but I did a little research about you," the bride's father said as he received a small paper bag from his wife standing nearby, then offered it to me. I accepted it, not knowing what was inside. "I am returning this large sum of money we received from you for the wedding to your mother. In return, I want you to work at our daycare center and pay the wedding expenses from your salary," he told Jack. "Take it back." Jack lifted his face and looked up at his bride's father. The bride's father's business was a private daycare center. "But when you say work, I don't have any qualifications to be a childcare worker, and I've never worked with small children." "Do you mean helping with the business as a manager?" Jack asked, sounding uncertain. With a calm look on his face, the bride's father said, "A manager? Absolutely not. The people who entrust their children to us are hard-working mothers who do it for their families." With a stern look, he continued, "A guy like you, who doesn't understand the struggles of a mother and only causes trouble, couldn't possibly manage a daycare center. So first of all," the bride's father paused, and Jack stared at him with utmost concern. "What you need to do is clean the dirty toilets that the children use and wash cloth diapers at our nursery," he said with a laugh. Unable to hide his shock, Jack's eyes widened, and he lowered his gaze, clenching his fists tightly. Seeing Jack in such a state at first took me aback, but then a memory jogged in my mind. "Could your father be? Is he Mr. Helen?" I questioned, an unexpected realization dawning upon me. The bride's father clapped his hands together, saying, "My dear, you finally caught on." It dawned upon me that the bride's father was the very same daycare teacher who looked after my kids back when I had just separated from my ex-husband. I also recognized his wife, who had been a daycare teacher alongside him during those times. "My dear, you've had a tough time. Just remember, we're on your side now," she assured me, reaching out to take my hand in a comforting grasp. After a while, Jack quit his job. He and his wife moved to work at the daycare center run by his father-in-law. The bride's parents made a promise that until they repaid me every cent Jack had taken from me, they would deduct a set amount from Jack's monthly salary. Jack needed to earn his childcare certification and gain a wealth of experience while working. "There's plenty of time before he'll need to take over my role," said Mr. Helen, the bride's father, smiling cheerfully. I looked at Jack, who wore a strange smile, and felt truly thankful to Jack's new family. I continued to work, encouraged and optimistic about the future.